सर्वेषु भद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
भगवतीरुत्तम श्लोके
भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
Is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes.
Voice not clear.
So today we are going to see Nectar of Devotion, the complete science of Bhakti Yoga. This is a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and dedication to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So we are going to read from that. Dedication to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunau
Nana Vicharadika Nipanau
Karma Samstapakau
Tadakarma Samapakau
Lokanam Hitakarinau Tribhuvane
Lokanam Hitakarinau Tribhuvane
Manyau Saranyakarau
Manyakaro
Radha Krishna Padharavinda Bhajana
Radha Krishna Padmaravindra Bhajana
Nandena Mattalikau
Nandena Mattaliko
Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau
Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau
Sri Jiva Gopalakau.
Shri Gopalako.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the 3 worlds. And they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. So this is the dedication to the 6 Goswamis of the Srila Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we'll proceed to preface. Please start reading, somebody.
The Nectar of Devotion is a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which was written in Sanskrit by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. He was the chief of the 6 Goswamis who were direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he first met Lord Chaitanya, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was engaged as a minister in the Muhammad government of Bengal. He and his brother Sanatan were then named Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik, respectively, and they held responsible posts as ministers of Nawab Hussain Shah. At that time, 500 years ago, the Hindu society was very rigid, and if a member of a Brahmana caste accepted the service of a Mohammedan ruler, he was at once rejected from the Brahmana society. That was the position of the 2 brothers, Dabir Khas and Shakar Malik. They belonged to the highly situated Saraswat Brahman community, but they were ostracized due to their acceptance of the ministerial posts in the government of Hussain Shah. It is the grace of Lord Chaitanya that he accepted these 2 exalted personalities as his disciples and raised them to the position of Goswamis, the highest position in Brahmanical culture. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya accepted Haridas Thakur as his disciple, although Haridas happened to be born of a Muhammadan family, and Lord Chaitanya later on made him the Acharya of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya's principle is universal. Anyone who knows the science of Krishna and is engaged in the service of the Lord is accepted as being in a higher position than a person born in the family of a Brahmana. That is the original principle accepted by all Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The principle of Lord Chaitanya's movement is educating and elevating everyone to the exalted post of a Goswami is taught in the nectar of devotion. Lord Chaitanya met the two brothers Dabir Khas and Sakkar Malik in a village known as Ramakeli in the district of Malda. And after that meeting, the brothers decided to retire from the government service and join Lord Chaitanya. Dabir Khas, who was later to become Rupa Goswami, retired from his post and collected all the money he had accumulated during his service. It is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that his accumulated savings in gold coins equaled millions of dollars and filled a large boat. He divided the money in a very exemplary manner, which should be followed by devotees in particular and by humanity in general. 50% of his accumulated wealth was distributed to the Krishna conscious people, namely the Brahmanas and the Vaishyas. 25% was distributed to relatives, and 25% was kept against emergency expenditures and personal difficulties. Later on, when Sakar Malik also proposed to retire, the Nawab was very much agitated and put him into jail. But Sakar Malik, who was later to become Srila Sanatan Goswami, took advantage of his brother's personal money, which had been deposited with a village banker, and escaped from the prison of Hussain. In this way, both brothers joined Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami first met Lord Chaitanya at Prayag, Allahabad, India, and at the Dashaswamedh bathing ghat of that holy city, the Lord instructed him continuously for 10 days. The Lord particularly instructed Rupa Goswami on the science of Krishna consciousness. These teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada are narrated in our book Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Later, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada elaborated on the teachings of Lord with profound knowledge of revealed scriptures and authoritative references from various Vedic literatures. Srila Srinivas Acharya describes in his prayers to the six Goswamis that they were all highly learned scholars, not only in Sanskrit, but also in foreign languages such as Persian and Arabic. They very scrutinizingly studied all the Vedic scriptures in order to establish the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the authorized principles of Vedic knowledge. The present Krishna conscious movement is also based on the authority of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. We are therefore generally known as Rupanugas or followers in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. It is only for our guidance that Srila Rupa Goswami prepared his book Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, which is now presented in the form of the Nectar of Devotion. Persons engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement, may take advantage of this great literature and be very solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. Bhakti means devotional service. Every service has some attractive feature which drives the servitor progressively on and on. Every one of us within this world is perpetually engaged in some sort of service, and the impetus for such service is the pleasure we derive from it. Driven by affection for his wife and children, a family man works day and night. A philanthropist works in the same way for love of the greater family, and a nationalist for the cause of his country and countrymen. That force that drives the philanthropist, the householder, and the nationalist is called rasa, or a kind of mellow relationship, whose taste is very sweet. Bhakti rasa is a mellow different from ordinary rasa enjoyed by mundane workers. Mundane workers labor very hard day and night in order to relish a certain kind of rasa, which is understood as sense gratification. The relish or taste of the mundane rasa does not long endure, and therefore mundane workers are always apt to change their position of enjoyment. A businessman is not satisfied by working the whole week. Therefore, wanting a change for the weekend, he goes to a place where he tries to forget his business activities. Then after the weekend is spent in forgetfulness, He again changes his position and resumes his actual business activities. Material engagement means accepting a particular status for some time and then changing it. This position of changing back and forth is technically known as bhoga tyaga, which means a position of alternating sense enjoyment and renunciation. A living entity cannot steadily remain either in sense enjoyment or in renunciation. Change is going on perpetually, and we cannot be happy in either state because of our eternal constitutional position. Sense gratification does not endure for long, and it is therefore called chapala sukh or flickering happiness. For example, an ordinary family man who works very hard day and night and is successful in giving comforts to the members of his family therefore relishes a kind of mellow, but his whole advancement in material happiness is immediately terminates along with his body as soon as his life is over. Death is therefore taken as a representative of God for the atheistic class of men. The devotee realizes the presence of God by devotional service, whereas the atheist realizes the presence of God in the shape of death. At death, everything is finished, and one has to begin a new chapter of life in a new situation, perhaps higher or lower than the last one. In any field of activity, political, social, national, or international, the result of our actions will be finished with the end of life. That is sure. Bhakti Rasa, however, the mellow released in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, does not finish with the end of life. It continues perpetually and is therefore called Amrita, that which does not die but exists eternally. This is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. The Bhagavad Gita says that a little advancement in Bhakti Rasa can save the devotee from the greatest danger, that of missing the opportunity for human life. The rasas derived from our feelings in social life, in family life, or in a greater family life of altruism, philanthropy, nationalism, socialism, communism, etc., do not guarantee that one's next life will be as a human being. We prepare our next life by our actual activities in the present life. A living entity is offered a particular type of body as a result of his action in the present body. These activities are taken into account by a superior authority known as Daiva or the authority of God. This Daiva is explained in the Bhagavad Gita as the prime cause of everything, and in Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated that a man takes his next body by Daivya Netrena, which means by the supervision of the authority of Supreme. In an ordinary sense, Daiva is explained as destiny. Daiva supervision gives us a body selected from 84 lakhs forms. The choice does not depend on our selection, but is awarded to us according to our destiny. If our body is present in if our body at present is engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness, then it is guaranteed that we will have at least a human body in our next life. A human being engaged in Krishna consciousness, even if unable to complete the course of Bhakti Yoga, takes birth in a higher division of human society so that he can automatically further his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, all bona fide activities in Krishna consciousness are Amrita or permanent. This is the subject matter of the nectar of devotion. This eternal engagement in Bhakti Rasa can be understood by a serious student upon studying the nectar of devotion. Adoption of Bhakti Rasa or Krishna consciousness will immediately bring one to the auspicious life free from anxieties and will bless one with transcendental existence, thus minimizing the value of liberation. Bhakti rasa itself is sufficient to produce a feeling of liberation because it attracts the attention of Supreme Lord Krishna. Generally, neophyte devotees are anxious to see Krishna or God, but God cannot be seen or known by our present material blunt senses. The process of devotional service, as it is recommended in the Nectar of Devotion, will gradually elevate one from the material condition of life to the spiritual status, wherein the devotee becomes purified of all the designations. The senses can then become uncontaminated, being constantly in touch with Bhakti Rasa. When the purified senses are employed in the service of the Lord, one becomes situated in Bhakti Rasa life, and any action performed for the satisfaction of Krishna in this transcendental Bhakti Rasa stage of life can be relished perpetually. When one is thus engaged in devotional service, all varieties of rasas or mellows turns into eternity. In the beginning, one is trained according to the principles of regulation under the guidance of the Acharya or spiritual master, and gradually, when one is elevated, devotional service becomes automatic and is characterized by the spontaneous Sorry. There are 12 kinds of rasas, as will be explained in this book. And by renovating our relationship with Krishna in five primary rasas, we can live eternally in full knowledge and bliss. The basic principle of the living condition is that we have a general propensity to love someone. No one can live without loving someone else. This propensity is present in every living being. Even an animal like a tiger has this loving propensity, at least in a dormant stage, and it is certainly present in the human beings. The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can become happy. At the present moment, the human society teaches one to love his country or family or his personal self, but there is no information where to repose the loving propensity so that everyone can become happy. That missing point is Krishna, and the nectar of devotion teaches us how to stimulate our original love for Krishna and how to be situated in that position where we can enjoy our blissful life. In the primary stage, a child loves his parents, then his brothers and sisters, and as he daily grows up, he begins to love his family, society, community, country, nation, or even the whole human society. But the loving propensity is not satisfied even by loving all human society. That loving propensity remains imperfectly fulfilled until we know who is the Supreme Beloved. Our love can be fully satisfied only when it is reposed in Krishna. This theme is the sum and substance of the nectar of devotion, which teaches us how to love Krishna in five different transcendental mellows. Our loving propensity expands just as a vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. The nectar of devotion teaches us the science of loving every one of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. We have failed to create peace and harmony in the human society, even by such great attempts as the United Nations, because we do not know the right method. The method is very simple, but one has to understand it with a cool head. The nectar of devotion teaches all men how to perform the simple and natural method of loving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we learn how to love Krishna, then it is very easy to immediately and simultaneously love every living being. It is like pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying food to one's stomach. The method of pouring water on the root of a tree or supplying foodstuffs to a stomach is universally scientific and practical, as every one of us has experienced. Everyone knows well that when we eat something, or in other words, when we put foodstuffs in the stomach, the energy created by such action is immediately distributed throughout the whole body. Similarly, when we pour water on the root, the energy thus created is immediately distributed throughout the entirety of even the largest tree. It is not possible to water the tree part by part, nor is it possible to feed the different parts of the body separately. The nectar of devotion will teach us how to turn on how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten everything everywhere. One who does not know this method is missing the point of life. As far as material necessities are concerned, the human civilization at the present moment is very much advanced in living comfortably, but still we are not happy because we are missing the point. The material comforts of life alone are not sufficient to make us happy. The vivid example is America, the richest nation of the world. Having all facilities for material comfort is producing a class of men completely confused and frustrated in life. I am appealing here to such confused men to learn the art of devotional service as directed in the nectar of devotion, and I am sure that the fire of material existence burning within their hearts will be immediately extinguished. The root cause of our dissatisfaction is that our dormant loving propensity has not been fulfilled despite our great advancement in the materialistic way of life. The nectar of devotion will give us the practical hints how we can live in this material world perfectly engaged in the devotional service and thus fulfill all our desires in this life and the next. The nectar of devotion is not presented to condemn of any way of materialistic life, but the attempt is to give information to religionists, philosophers, and people in general how to love Krishna. One may live without material discomfort, but at the same time, he should learn the art of loving Krishna. At the present moment, we are inventing so many ways to utilize our propensity to love, but factually, we are missing the real point Krishna. We are watering all parts of the tree, but missing the tree's root. We are trying to keep our body fit by all means, but we are neglecting to supply foodstuffs to the stomach. Missing Krishna means missing one's self. See, real self-realization and realization of Krishna go together simultaneously. For example, seeing oneself in the mirror morning means seeing the sunrise also. Without seeing the sunshine, no one can see himself. Similarly, unless one has realized Krishna, there is no question of self-realization. The nectar of devotion is specifically presented for persons who are now engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement. I beg to offer my sincere thanks to all my friends and disciples who are helping me to push forward the Krishna consciousness movement in the Western countries. And I beg to acknowledge with thanks the contribution made by my beloved disciples, Sriman Jayanand Brahmachari. My thanks are due as well to the directors of ISKCON Press who have taken so much care in publishing this great literature. Hare Krishna, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Someone else continue.
I can.
Hari Bol Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
So now we are getting into introduction. Be very attentive in reading and listening. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. Introduction. Invoking auspiciousness, Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationships, which are called neutrality, passive adoration, servitorship, friendship, parenthood, conjugal love, comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. He is the supreme attractive form, and by his universal and transcendental attractive features, he has captivated all the gopis, headed by Taraka, Palika, Shyama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his lordship's grace be on us so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of his duty of writing the nectar of devotion. Impelled by his divine grace, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada and of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compiling this summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sri Sanatana Goswami, who is his elder brother and spiritual master, and he prays that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by residing in that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatana Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees and acharyas, holy teachers, who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the Supreme, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to all the different paths of liberation. The impersonalists are dwelling in the river water, which eventually comes to mix with the ocean. They have no information. However, that within the ocean, as within the river, there are innumerable aquatic living entities. The sharks who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers that are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with the other processes, which are compared to the rivers that only gradually come to the ocean. Srila Rupa Goswami prays to his spiritual master, Srila Sanatan Goswami, for the protection of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the pure nectar of devotional service, from the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of service to the Lord. He compares their arguments and logic to volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm. And similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical views about the ultimate transcendental realization cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service. The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work, that should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas, and simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into four parts, just as the ocean is sometimes divided into four parts, and there are different sections within each of the four divisions. Originally, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean is divided like the watery ocean into east, south, west, and north, while the subsections within these different divisions are called waves. As in the ocean, there are always different waves, either on the eastern side, the southern side, the western side, or the northern side. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu similarly has different waves. In the first part, there are four waves, the first being a general description of devotional service. The second concerns the regulative principles for executing devotional service. And the third wave, devotional service in ecstasy. In the fourth is the ultimate goal, love of God. These will be explicitly described along with their different symptoms. The authorized descriptions of bhakti or devotional service, following in the footsteps of previous acharyas, can be summarized in the following statements by Srila Rupa Goswami. First-class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. The purport is that one may also be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably, but that cannot be counted as pure devotional service. Pure devotional service should be free from the desire for any material benefits or for sense gratification, as these desires are cultivated through fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Generally, people are engaged in different activities to get some material profit, while most philosophers are engaged in proposing transcendental realization through volumes of word, jugglery, and speculation. Pure devotional service must always be free from such fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. One has to learn Krishna consciousness or pure devotional service from the authorities by spontaneous loving service. The devotional service is a sort of cultivation. It is not simply inaction for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. There are many different methods for people who want this, but cultivation of Krishna consciousness is different. The particular word used by Srila Rupa Goswami in this connection is anushilana, or cultivation by following the predecessors. teachers, acharyas. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Without activity, consciousness alone cannot help us. All activities may be divided into two classes. One class may be for achieving a certain goal, and the other may be for avoiding some unfavorable circumstance. In Sanskrit, these activities are called pravritti and nivritti, positive and negative action. There are many examples of negative action. For instance, a diseased person has to be cautious and take medicine in order to avoid some unfavorable illness. Those who are cultivating spiritual life and executing devotional service are always engaged in activity. Such activity can be performed with the body or with the mind. Thinking, feeling, and willing are all activities of the mind. And when we will do something, the activity comes to be manifest by gross bodily senses. Thus, in our mental activities, we should always try to think of Krishna and try to plan how to please him, following in the footsteps of the great acharyas and the personal spiritual master. There are activities of the body, activities of the mind, and activities of speech. A Krishna conscious person engages his words in preaching the glories of the Lord. This is called Kirtana. And by his mind, a Krishna conscious person always thinks of the activities of the Lord, as he is speaking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra or engaging in his various pastimes in Vrindavan with his devotees. In this way, one can always think of the activities and pastimes of the Lord. This is the mental culture of Krishna consciousness. Similarly, we can offer many services with our bodily activities, but all such activities must be in relationship with Krishna. This relationship is established by connecting oneself with the bona fide spiritual master, who is the direct representative of Krishna in disciplic succession. Therefore, the execution of Krishna conscious activities with the body should be directed by the spiritual master and then performed with faith. The connection with the spiritual master is called initiation. From the date of initiation by the spiritual master, the connection between Krishna and the person cultivating Krishna consciousness is established. Without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, the actual connection with Krishna consciousness is never performed. This cultivation of Krishna consciousness is not material. The Lord has three general energies, namely external energy, the internal energy, and the marginal energy. The living entities are called marginal energy, and the material cosmic manifestation is the action of the external or material energy. Then there is the spiritual world, which is a manifestation of the internal energy. The living entities, who are called marginal energy, perform material activities when acting under the inferior, external energy. And when they engage in activities under the internal, spiritual energy, their activities are called Krishna conscious. This means that those who are great souls or great devotees do not act under the spell of material energy, but act instead under the protection of the spiritual energy. Any activities done in devotional service or in Krishna consciousness are directly under the control of spiritual energy. In other words, energy is a sort of strength, and the strength can be spiritualized by the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Lord Chaitanya says that it is a fortunate person who comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. One who is serious about spiritual life is given by Krishna the intelligence to come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. And then by the grace of the spiritual master, one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness. In this way, the whole jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is directly under the spiritual energy, Krishna and the spiritual master. This has nothing to do with the material world. When we speak of Krishna, we refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his many expansions. He is expanded by his plenary parts and parcels. He differentiated parts and parcels and his different energies. Krishna, in other words, means everything and includes everything. Generally, however, we should understand Krishna to mean Krishna and his personal expansion. Krishna expands himself as Baladev, Sankarshana, Vasudev, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Rama, Narsimha, and Varaha, as well as many other incarnations and innumerable Vishnu expansions. These are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam to be as numerous as the uncountable waves. So Krishna includes all such expansions as well as his pure devotees. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna's expansions are all complete in eternity, blissfulness, and cognizance. Devotional service means to prosecute Krishna conscious activities that are favorable to the transcendental pleasure of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, and any activities that are not favorable to the transcendental favor of the Lord cannot be accepted as devotional service. For example, great demons like Ravan, Kamsa, and Hiranyakashipu were always thinking of Krishna, but they were thinking of him as their enemy. This sort of thinking cannot be accepted as bhakti or Krishna consciousness. The impersonalists sometimes misunderstand devotional service in such a way that they divide Krishna from his paraphernalia and pastimes. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the impersonalists say that although Krishna is of interest, the battlefield of Kurukshetra isn't. The devotees, however, also know that the battlefield of Kurukshetra by itself has nothing to do with their business. But in addition, they know that Krishna does not mean just Krishna alone. He is always with his associates and paraphernalia. For instance, if someone says, give something to eat to the man with the weapon, the eating process is done by the man and not by the weapon. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, a devotee may be interested in the paraphernalia and locations, such as the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that are associated with Krishna, but he is not concerned with simply any battlefield. He is concerned with Krishna, his speech, his instructions, etc. It is because Krishna is there that the battlefield is so important. This is the summary understanding of what Krishna consciousness is. Without this understanding, one is sure to misunderstand why the devotees are interested on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. One who is interested in Krishna becomes interested in his different pastimes and activities. The definition of a pure devotee is as given by Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu can be summarized thus: his service is favorable and is always in relation to Krishna. In order to keep the purity of such Krishna conscious activities, one must be freed from all material desires and philosophical speculations. Any desire except for the service of the Lord is called material desire, and philosophical speculation refers to the sort of speculation that ultimately arrives at a conclusion of voidism or impersonalism. This conclusion is useless for a Krishna conscious person. Only rarely by philosophical speculation can one reach the conclusion of worshipping Vasudev, Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita itself. The ultimate end of philosophical speculation, then, must be Krishna, with the understanding that Krishna is everything, the cause of all causes, and that one should therefore surrender unto him. If this ultimate goal is reached, then philosophical advancement is favorable. But if the conclusion of philosophical speculation is voidism or impersonalism, that is not bhakti. Karma, or fruitive activities, are sometimes understood to be ritualistic activities. There are many persons who are very much attracted by the ritualistic activities described in the Vedas, But if one becomes attracted simply to ritualistic activities without understanding Krishna, his activities are unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. Actually, Krishna consciousness can be based simply on hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., described in the Srimad Bhagavatam are 9 different processes, besides which everything done is unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. Thus, one should always be guarding against fall down. Srila Rupa Goswami has also mentioned in this definition of bhakti the word jnana karmadi. This karmadi, fruitive work, consists of activities that are unable to help one attain to pure devotional service. Many forms of so-called renunciation are also not favorable to Krishna conscious devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has also quoted a definition from the Narada Pancharatra as follows. One should be freed from all material designations and, by Krishna consciousness, must be cleansed of all material contamination. He should be restored to his pure identity, in which engages his senses in the service of the proprietor of the senses. So when our senses are engaged for the actual proprietor of the senses, that is called devotional service. In a conditional state, our senses are engaged in serving those bodily demands. When the same senses are engaged in executing the order of Krishna, our activities are called bhakti. As long as one identifies himself as belonging to a certain family, a certain society, or a certain person, he is said to be covered with designation. When one is fully aware that he does not belong to any family, society, or country, but is eternally related to Krishna, he then realizes that his energy should be employed not in the interest of so-called family, society, or country, but in the interest of Krishna. This is the purity of purpose and the platform of pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Anyone else can continue?
That's it. So we have finished the introduction. So shall we go ahead? We have 15 minutes. No. So we'll continue next characteristics of pure devotional service next week, tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do this. Okay. So we can wind up now.
Any questions?
Any questions?
From what you have read today, this is a very important subject.
So I want to revise. So I will revise you, especially the introduction portion, very scientific and systematic. So let me revise it for you because it's in the paragraph. So even though it's in paragraph, it's highly technical. Very beautiful introduction. So this invoking auspiciousness, Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the reservoir of all rasas or relationship, which are called neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parenthood, conjugal love, comedy, compassion, fear, chivalry, ghastliness, wonder, and devastation. So he is supreme attractive form and his universal transcendental attractive feature. He has captivated all the gopis headed by Taraka, Palika, Shyama, Lalita, and ultimately Srimati Radharani. Let his Lordship's grace be on us so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of duty of writing the nectar of devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, impelled by his divine grace, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is worshipping his spiritual master and he is offering obeisances before that. This is Rupa Goswami's Namaskara mantra, the first mantra in Nectar of Devotion. So Prabhupada never gave us the verses which are in Sanskrit written by Rupa Goswami. Rather, he gave a textual representation of this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So the first sloka goes like Akila Rasamrita Murti, Taraka Pali. So this is like Akila Rasamrita Murti. So Krishna is called Akila Rasamrita Murti. So what is that Krishna enjoys? He's supreme enjoyer and he's supreme proprietor. So generally, we have items in this world and we try to enjoy using those items. If I have a mobile phone, I'll enjoy. If I have a car, I'll enjoy. If I have beautiful women, I'll go with her for a tour. I'll enjoy like this, I have friends like this, right? We enjoy the things. But Krishna already is supreme proprietor. He has everything. He owns everything. So what does he enjoy? He enjoys the relationship with his devotees. Simple, that's it. So Lord Krishna, we know our cause of Sarva Karana Karanam. Is called Akila Rasamrita Murti, which is reservoir of rasas or relationship. Rasa means relationship. So he is like to relate with his devotees and exchange feelings. So this can be Shanta Rasa, which is neutrality, passive adoration, servitorship Dasya, friendship, which is Sakya, parenthood, which is Vatsalya, and then conjugal love, it's Madhurya, then Uparasas. These are all main rasas. These are all main rasas, and these may be mixed with sometime in the servitorship, there may be some comedy happening between them. Or in love, there may be comedy statement. Hasya, Parihasya, Sambhashane. So in Vrindavana, there is Hasya, Parihashana, Sambhashane. The talks are very Hasya and Parihasya. Means making jokes, which is Hasya. Parihasya is pulling the leg or talking in a crooked way, in a comedy way. So Hasya, Parihasa, Sambhashane is the conversations. So these kind of exchanges between Krishna and his pure devotees are the end result of the prema, the result or the prayojana. Prayojana is every individual soul can personally have a particular relationship with Krishna. This is the phala of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna, that is why, because he is supreme enjoyer, what does he enjoy? Bhavagrahi Janardana, the Janardana, with all the living entities who are affectionately connected with him, he enjoys loving exchanges. Bhavagrahi. Where from he is deriving his enjoyment is from the relationship of loving relationship with his devotees. Sometimes they may speak very sweetly, sometimes they may speak harshly, sometimes they may turn back, sometimes they run towards him. Not always running towards Krishna. Sometimes they even turn away from him because of love. So these kind of exchanges. So he's called Rasika Shekara. Krishna is also called Rasika Shekara. So Akila Samrita Murti, Taraka Pali Lalita Kalita, Shyama Vidur. What is that? Jayati. So like this is the first sloka which Rupa Goswami is giving. So that is this translation of the sloka is given here by Prabhupada. This is the first paragraph. Now let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada, and Bhakti Siddhanta, author. So Prabhupada is offering obeisances to the author and also to his own spiritual master. So people, they want to offer obeisances to previous Acharya, but they feel so fearful to offer obeisances to the current Acharya who's guiding. Is wrong. We should be very bold in offering obeisances to our spiritual master who's really taking us away from this material existence, promising in front of fire yajna that he will take us back, come back to God with all our even though we are in all problems, he is promising to liberate us from this. With the simple promises from our side to chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regulative principles and stay as a servant, then he's promising. So spiritual master, how beautifully Srila Prabhupada is offering his obeisances to the author of the book, which he is going to translate, and to his immediate spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. So he's mentioning also their inspiration. I have been engaged in the matter of compiling summary study. So spiritual master asked him to translate. He's not doing, okay, I will translate. Prabhupada did that, I will do it. I am having a new project. I'm going to do cow protection. I'm going to translate the book. So don't do that. How should we do service? by whose inspiration I have been engaged in the matter of compassion. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada asked Srila Prabhupada to translate the books in English. So, on the order of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada is doing this. So he's not giving the credit. Prabhupada is very humble. Even though he did great things, he gave the credit to his spiritual master. Sorry. Prabhupada, on his own accord, he went to Jhansi and opened a center. But on the order of spiritual master, he went abroad, translated in English, and then he created International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So his glory goes to his spiritual master and his sincere discipleship. So Prabhupada was a sincere disciple. That is the reason we have ISKCON now. Oh, why Prabhupada went abroad? Because he had mercy. He wanted to preach only youth. He targeted the youth. I saw one businessman very foolishly coming and declaring, talking about Prabhupada. What right that rascal has to talk about Prabhupada, that I don't know. And he's coming in the social media and he's very great man and everybody appreciating because he spoke about Prabhupada, rascal. And he's coming and telling Prabhupada, he was more intelligent. He saw the market of the world and he saw where to go. So he saw Western country. Then he also saw youth. Some blabbering nonsense that he did a managerial strategic study before Prabhupada executed his preaching plan. Like that, he is describing Prabhupada rascal. But here we see originally who is Prabhupada. Prabhupada is giving sincere, not credit to Guru Maharaj, but he is telling how he got inspiration. Because his spiritual master told him to do this. He's doing this. I'm not doing on my own accord. I'm doing because my spiritual master told me to do. So he will empower me, being engaged in the matter of compiling by whose inspiration. So this is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is the sublime science, who appeared 500 years ago in Western, and he also gives the credit to Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is spiritual master and the author. The next paragraph, if you see, just to see. Next paragraph is talking about the book and the author. Srila Rupa Goswami begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sanatana Goswami. So Rupa Goswami gives credit to his elder brother and also offers obeisances to him, who's the elder brother and spiritual master, guiding spiritual master. So first Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami comes to Prayag and meets Lord Chaitanya and goes to Vrindavana. Then comes Sanatana Goswami. But if you see the conversation in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the instructions which are given to Rupa Goswami were very simple and which is a nectar of instruction. But the instructions which are given now in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is an elaborate conversation between Sanatana Goswami and Lord Chaitanya in Varanasi, not in Prayag. So first Rupa Goswami escaped from the jail and he came to Prayag. And in Prayag he met Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya gave very nice, in Manikarnika Ghat, he gave a very nice elaborate description on science of Krishna consciousness. But mostly that is covered in Nectar of Instruction and other books, of course, Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. There are totally 3 books initially. Initially, Lalita Madhava and Vidagdha Madhava were the drama, which is written by Rupa Goswami after receiving the instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag. And he went to Vrindavan and he started compiling. Then he came back and finished it in Puri. But Sanatana Goswami was arrested by Nawab Hussain Shah. So he escaped from the jail by bribing the jailer. And in the forest pathway, he came as like a beggar. He, in a torn cloth, he reached. He's a prime minister. He was a prime minister of Bengal. But he came big, Hussain Shah. Hussain Shah was namesake leader. But actually, Rupa and Sanatana only were ruling. Rupa Goswami was finance minister and Sanatana Goswami was the prime minister. So he reached Varanasi later. And then very, very long upadesh, long instructions were given. Complete science of devotional service was explained to Sanatana Goswami. But here you see the Nectar of Devotion is written by Rupa Goswami. So we see that he has also taken instruction from Srila Sanatana Goswami, his elder brother and instructing spiritual master. For all the 6 Goswamis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the primary Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, and also Siksha Guru. But there is instructing spiritual masters or Siksha Gurus or other Goswamis. So he prays that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu will be pleasing to him also because he has given him instruction. So he further prays that by residing in that ocean of nectar, Srila Sanatana Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna. So if you go to Chaitanya Charitamrita and see, you'll see that most of the things which are there here is given to Sanatana Goswami by Lord Chaitanya. So from this we understand that Sanatana Goswami transferred this knowledge or spoke to this to Rupa Goswami also. And Rupa Goswami also got instruction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the combination he wrote this book. So we are offering obeisances to all the devotees, acharyas. They are all, so here there is a beautiful analogy given of the sharks in the ocean of nectar, and there are rivers which are liberation, paths of liberations, and impersonalists who are like coming to merge in the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to different paths of liberation. And the impersonalists are dwelling in this river water eventually comes mixed with the ocean, but they have no information. However, that within the ocean, as within the river, there's no innumerable aquatic. For example, if Ganga is mixing with Bay of Bengal, we should scientifically understand how our Krishna Panch is so scientific. Still, Ganga is Ganga, Samudra Raj is Samudra Raj. They are two different personalities. They don't mix. Ganga privately runs inside the ocean and she goes to Padal Loka. Because we saw that not Sagar Maharaj, what is that? Who brought Ganga for Bhagirath Ganga? Bhagirath brought Ganga to liberate his ancestors who were in Padal Loka. So he is taking Ganga to Patala via Bay of Bengal and then towards ocean, and inside the ocean is taking to Patala. So there is a path. More important is two different personalities. Sahara is, or the ocean is another personality, ocean, Samudra Raj, and the Ganga is another personality. They don't mix, even though it looks like, oh, river Ganga comes and mixes with the ocean. Ganga Sagar, Mela, Ganga Sagar. Yeah, Ganga and Sagar are Milan. They are meeting there. They are not mixing or merging. So even that science you should understand. Even materialistic science you should understand only from scriptures. So however, so the river will be separate, and the same way the impersonalists like rivers, they are coming to merge in the ocean of devotion, ocean of the supreme absolute truth. But they will still be individuals. They can never merge or become one with the supreme. So however, that within the ocean, when the innumerable living entities are there, sharks are there. So the pure devotees are considered to be the sharks. They don't care about the rivers because they are enjoying the ocean water, so deep water. They have enjoyed a large, vast ocean and various aquatics and beings. They've enjoyed the various caves and beautiful environments in water. Such sharks don't enjoy river water. River water is constantly flowing and it doesn't have much of a exciting infrastructure. So the devotees eternally live in this ocean of devotional service. Pure devotionals are considered like sharks, and other devotees are considered like medium-sized fishes and big-sized fishes, small-sized fishes, like this surface level fishes in the nectar of devotion. And the big sharks don't care for the rivers. In other words, they don't care for, pure devotees don't care for impersonalists, because they are completely involved with the transcendental loving service of the Lord. They don't care for them. They don't even talk about them. They don't care about them. So Rupa Goswami also prays to his spiritual master, Sanatana Goswami, for protection of this ocean, pure devotional service from the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle. Sometimes they come into the devotional service, signs of service to the Lord, and they meddle unnecessarily. And they'll become argumentative logicians. Very dangerous. So he compares their argument and logic as volcanic eruptions. Okay, fine, volcanic eruptions are dangerous. But the joke is, when the volcanic eruption is inside the middle of the ocean. What is the use of any such eruption? Because it's going into the water and the water will subdue all the cannot do any harm, very little harm they can do. Because those who are against devotional service so sweet. The philosophical arguments or philosophical speculations, arguments, competitionness, all these things will get subdued by the purity of devotional service. So they cannot disturb the great ocean of devotional service. We need not fear. So in this way, so now it's already 8 o'clock. Yeah, and 2 slokas are being referred here. Maybe we will mug up those 2 slokas. Tomorrow I can give you, because anyway, this is part of Bhakti Shastri. So going through these books of Bhakti Shastri on Saturdays and Sundays will really help the people to really understand properly these books. Because when it is to the institute or academic, mostly we are fearing the exam. We are preparing only for the exam. Heartful study may not happen. May happen also, may not happen also. So here we can actually explore these books, which are very wonderful. So I would like to go through those slokas also. So the author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, or I can put the sloka in the group. And today you mug up, and tomorrow, if possible, you can come and repeat that verse. So Srila Rupa Goswami very humbly submits that he's just trying to spread Krishna punches all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for the work. So that is the attitude of the preacher in Krishna conscious movement. Following, so we should be very humble that we really have to feel unfit. Or, excuse me, we need not feel unfit. We are unfit. The joke is, you don't externally be humble, externally give credit. If they deserve the credit, you give them. That's it. And you deserve to be humble because you really don't have qualification. So we are truthful. We don't glorify Krishna. We talk about Krishna and it is glorious. So in material world, people artificially speak about people and glorify. So that is duplicity. But in Krishna consciousness, it's absolute truth. And we always speak the truth. If Sanatana Goswami instructed Rupa Goswami, and then Rupa Goswami will call Sanatana Goswami as instructing spiritual master, and then he will offer his obeisances and he will give credit. He will tell him that by his inspiration only I'm writing it. But he doesn't pull everybody because I'm humble, that Prabhu, this Mataji, everybody. I am also diplomatically maintaining relationship and I am a humble devotee. I am very pleasing. I am giving pleasure to the devotees. All this duplicity is missing from them for any personal credit. So we should never think ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas and simply be following in their footsteps. Sincerely follow from heart the footsteps of being simply instrumental in following in their footsteps. Not announce, oh, I am only instrument, Prabhu, I am not. No, you sincerely be that. Whether you announce or not, people may think you're right or wrong. But you be that, be genuine to yourself. Have an integrity to yourself, not for others. And others may recognize, may not recognize. If they are surrendered to Krishna, Krishna will show them. Sometimes he may not even show them. It is up to the Lord. Somebody misunderstanding or understanding us. But we should be genuine to ourselves. Because Lord is residing within our heart. And if you have any duplicity and we are acting for others, you will very clearly know that this person is living for other person, but internally he doesn't have integrity. So very, very important to be simply instrumental to the previous acharyas and simply by following in their footsteps. We may be able to do something to the benefit of suffering owner. In that way, we surely be substantial we can do. Not that sometime we are like a Rajini and no market later. So that will be there when there is a duplicity. But when somebody is simply being instrumental to the previous acharyas, surely substantial we can do something, contribute to this humanity. It is possible. Avasya Rakshibe Krishna, he will use us in our service. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sindhu means ocean. Rasa means this sweet relationship with Krishna. It's Amrita. So what Amrita? Devotional service. Rasa. So devotional service, devotion is 9 processes. When we do, we develop friendship with Krishna, Sakyam and Atma Nivedanam. Then the rasa between the exchange between Lord and us will happen. Did you have reciprocation with Krishna? Yes, everybody will keep having reciprocation with Krishna. Gradually it will mature. And this reciprocation, which is the result of bhakti, is like Amrita. It's like nectar. And what nectar? not a drop of bindu. It is not bindu. It is sindhu. Bindu means a drop. Sindhu means an ocean. So ocean of devotional service is present for us. And it is divided into 4 parts like north, east, south, west. And each of that has sections. And while subsections are there, every division has subsections, and these subsections are called waves. Ocean means it will have wave, no? So north side, east side, south side, west side is there. In each of the sides, there are waves which are called sections. So in that way, the book is divided. Like we, whenever you buy a book or see a book, you see contents, table of contents. Same way Rupa Goswami is giving the table of contents. I have divided, and I've named it as Nectar of Devotion. And this is the ocean. And in that ocean is having 4 directions, four chapters and sub-chapters, or 4 topics and chapters inside each of that. Like, so he's dividing 4 divisions, and inside 4 divisions, there are subsections which are called waves of the ocean. So this is the content, table of content. And then he's giving 2 first-class devotional service, 2 definitions. Lord Chaitanya, given by Lord Chaitanya, of course, and repeated by Goswamis, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. First class devotional service is known by Anukulyena Krishna Anusilanam Bhaktir Uttama. You have to serve Lord by favorably. First class devotional service. So that sloka is completely explained here, which me and Prabhu regularly quotes the sloka. So that one sloka, I think one sloka, you can, this entire description is that, and in double quotes, Lord Chaitanya is given the thing, definition. So Bhagavad Gita, battlefield of Kurukshetra, I go through everything, then you will come across this verse. Yeah, no philosophical speculation on this. That is, we always, what is that? What is the definition given? We always repeat that verse. Anyabhilashita sunyam jnana karmadi anavrutam anukulyena krishna anusilanam bhakti ruchyate. Bhakti ruchyate means definition of bhakti. That is bhakti. Like that he is defining. So anyabhilashita sunyam, without having any other personal desire. Jnana karmadi anavrutam, without touch of jnana and karma. Krishna anusilanam. There is a pratikulya bhakti and anukulya bhakti. Pratikulya bhakti is remembering Krishna in a negative way, in a wrong way, and in a positive way when you remember, that is anukulya. Anukulya means favorable and non-favorable. But bhakti has 2 different things. Sravanam Kirtanam you can do, even blasphemy you can do about Krishna. That is also Sravanam Kirtanam, like Kamsa was doing, Hiranyakashipu was doing. So they were always thinking of Krishna. Smaranam was continuous. Even we are not able to continuously think of Krishna. But Ravana thought continuously as Rama, and Hiranyakashipu continuously was thinking about the Supreme Lord. So Smaranam was there, but it was Pradukulya Smaranam, not Anukulya Smaranam. So favorable. So first is Anya Abhilashita Sunyam. Sunya means 0. Anya Abhilasha. Abhilasha means desire. Without any other desire. Anya Abhilashita Sunyam. So hope all of you understood this one sentence. Jnana karmadi anavritam. Without jnana, mixture of jnana and karma. So in Bhagavatam also exactly we are seeing that mixed devotional service means mixing jnana and karma. Mental speculation, karma, jnana, all these things you mix them, it becomes mixed devotional service. That is what we saw yesterday. Jnana karmadi anavritam. Without mixing jnana and karma. Karma means fruitive activities. Jnana means knowledge. Oh, knowledge, Krishna consciousness, इतना ज्ञान है, Krishna consciousness में इतना ज्ञान मिलता है, ज्ञान पूरा को देना है. Hey, give bhakti, yaar. Why you are giving jnana? You see only jnana because you are a swan. You are not a swan who takes milk and leave water, but you take water and you leave the milk. So bhakti may mix. You are seeing knowledge mixed with devotion. You are leaving the devotion. You are taking only the knowledge. But bhakti includes knowledge. Bhakti is in complete knowledge. Radharani is in complete knowledge. Radharani is moved Chaitanya Prabhu Krishna had. Then only he was able to explain devotional service, Baba. So it's not that she doesn't have knowledge. So spirit soul, by nature, bhakti, was Satsidananda. So eternity, knowledge and bliss. Knowledge isn't complete. Material knowledge may not be there. You are seeing only material knowledge, you are tasting it. You're enjoying it. You're enjoying speaking about it. So just because you are a lower taste, the bhakti includes knowledge also. It includes all three things. So just cut it off. And the crops. Okay. So from the date of initiation, so here spiritual master's glories is given. Jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanusmilanam. So how will you do favorable devotion service? Do it under the guidance of spiritual master. Otherwise, we are all envious of Krishna. And we will think I'm doing devotion and we will work against Krishna consciousness. Very dangerous also. So if we are deviated from parampara, we are dangerous. So Jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena Krishna anusilanam, favorable devotional service. Krishna anusilanam. Bhakti ruchyate, bas, over definition. It's a very simple verse. I'll put in the group. All of you mug it up and come tomorrow. We will discuss that verse. And if possible, go through this. This is nothing but the explanation of that verse. Definition of bhakti is given in the introduction. That's it. Okay. So we've seen the revision of the introduction. See you tomorrow with the mugging up of that one verse. Somebody can find it, that verse, and put it in the group here. I don't know, here Rathayatra today, and now itself phone call, some guests are coming and staying in my house. So I don't know whether we'll have time. So kindly somebody help us by putting the verse. Who? Ishara, Preeti, Saurav, kindly can you do? Saurav, do. Okay.
He's a responsible person.
Yeah, he'll do. Okay. So Saurav, Dada, Saurav, Baba is doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that one verse with the translation. There may be 2-3 translation, just to check properly. Simple one, easy one to understand. Direct one you find and then just put it. Because Prabhupada didn't translate this, but in maybe Chaitanya Charitamrita or somewhere he has referred, maybe. And that's it. See you tomorrow with the beautiful characteristics of devotional service. We will really understand the exact definition and characteristics of pure devotional service. This is what we are aspiring for, and this will be the chapter tomorrow. Okay, eagerly waiting to meet you tomorrow. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Rajesh Prabhu.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So we will continue tomorrow sharp at 5 o'clock by chanting the holy name of the Lord, followed by nectar of devotion. Thank you very much. Can I close? Oh, I have to stop.